They look vastly excited. Oh, I can even see from here some coloration coming in on them. Kind of like the cliff hawks were last weekend. Was it last weekend? When was I there last? Last weekend, I guess. Had quite a bit of coloration in their chests already, and these guys are starting to get some nice color. Wow, we look exceptionally sleepy this morning. Don't get too excited now, guys. I got the red tail nestlings.
Are they flying out yet?
Not yet.
Out yet?
Not yet. No, they haven't fallen out like stones yet. That probably won't be until I'm guessing maybe the beginning of the second week of June.
No, that late. Yeah.
Yeah,
they're still safe up there, and yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They.
How big are they?
Probably about like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty big. I'd say they're maybe about 14 inches tall.
Wow.
At this point,
but they
maybe
probably not developed enough that if they went off the edge, and they wouldn't be able to fly.
No, yeah.
Kind of flutter around and
yeah, they would
drop though.
Yeah, they would be a soft landing in the Korean lilacs down below. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that mom and dad would definitely try to feed him and stuff like that. But there's no airlift capability at this point on anybody's part.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Too big to
too big to
be able to be helped by the parents
and not quite there yet to help themselves.
Yeah.
But they're definitely doing well. They got you can see he's doing some nice stretching there, and they're getting a lot of their flight feathers in and stuff. They're getting some coloration.
Yeah.
Their balance is pretty good. They're starting to do some self-feeding a little bit, and they're starting to open the prey up a little bit. Cool. That's one of the things they're being challenged with now and rewarded for. They're not doing a lot of helicoptering. I'm not on the big camera every day, so but they're not doing a lot of the flapperizing around, running up and down and stuff.
It's starting to build the
muscles and stuff. Exactly. They're doing some stretching. They're tracking things really well. And there's a starling nest there that's sort of being extirpated by the parents, gradually, and so they're seeing some close-up motion on the birds, and just a whole variety of things happening for them. So
definitely doing a lot of learning right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally in learning mode, and they're very intent. They enjoy to watch what's happening around them.
Yeah. So they're not bothered at all by kind of this level of activity around them. Well, this is what they know, right? Yeah. So they apparently not. I mean, there's a cliff hawk nest down on Stewart Avenue by the bridge on the side of the cliff. Okay. Yeah.
Just upstream on the north wall, and second buttress in from the bridge, out from the bridge upstream, and there's two chicks there, and they are. There's a lot of traffic there, so they're a little bit more attuned to that. There's a nest over on the golf course, the country club. That family is very, the parents are very, very protective of the chicks and stuff like that. Even when they're in fledge mode, you get anywhere near them, they are up in the air and circling. And there's a nest further up on the west side of the lake. And that nest is, you get within, a tenth of a mile of that nest, and they are on you, man. The parents are up there and they are circling, and it's like, hello, you want me to find your nest? Shut up and don't say anything, but they are really adamant about it. So these guys are, it's not that BR and Ezra are not protective, they are extremely, but they also are more wary of they're more concerned with like falcons or other hawks coming into the area, and
they figured out we're not much of a
Right, and so far they've seen that, the fledglings on the ground are treated well by the humans and stuff like that. So, yeah, and Dad is. I was out looking for it. He was up on top of the tower a few minutes ago, and he was just watching over the kids. And then he decided to go hunting here in Min Garden, and then took off that way. And I kind of pursued him a little bit, but I lost him. So I don't know where he is. He's probably picking on some sparrow. Or
do they mostly get sparrows, pigeons, birds in general?
These guys get everything. Ezra's a really he's smaller than the female, but he's a mighty hunter for sure. He'll bring in snake, he'll bring in rabbit, squirrel, pigeon, gull, sparrows and stuff. So he's able to hunt just about anything, that he can manage to.
They can pick it up,
Well, or he'll eat part of it, and then stash some of it. We've seen him stash some stuff up on that tower there. That's their old nest tower. And he'll bring in portions, he'll bring in half a rabbit or whatever, or a headless squirrel or things like that to the nest. So, yeah, he's a pretty capable guy. And
so is the structure that the nest are on, was that built for them, or is that for the maintenance of the lights? And
that's just
to work for
it's just the maintenance of the lights. They used to have these are the E series of fledglings or nestlings, you know what I mean? And the D's were here last year. The C's were there in that tower down there. And then the A's and the B's were on top of Man Library.
Huh.
And we don't know anything too much more beyond that, but they were on Man. They liked. I'm not sure exactly why they moved over here, and that was a pretty decent nest actually, because there were decent trees there, up for them to land in on.
So they would have kind of close relationship.
Yeah, so they didn't have to cross the road in order to fledge into a tree. And then they hung out over on top of the flat part of Rice Hall. There's those, cooling things or utility things. There's a, yeah. So the two of them, the two males, would go over there and they would just lay in the sun. I mean, literally, they would be baking in the sun. Their wings would be spread and flopped over the edge, and they would just lay there. And Dad would come or Mom would come and feed them and stuff like that.
What a life, huh?
And they would just lay there. You know what I mean? And in the meantime, the girl who was
Beach.
C3 was the female. She was big, and she was the last out of the nest. She's kind of a homebody, and she would cry and cry and cry, and Dad would come and feed her in the nest and stuff. These guys last year were kind of a tumult. The D's were kind of a mess. The D2, which is the only one that survived, that we believe is the case, she sort of like went to the fledge ledge. There's those little protrusions on either side. Well, the one on the left is typically what we call the fledge ledge, and what happens is that Mom and Dad will, especially last year, they're pretty aggressive about Mom and Dad going and sitting there and then looking back at the kids and stuff. Well, D2, who was the female who hatched, she was sort of the least developed but the largest. She would go over there and preen herself and stuff like that. Well, one day she sort of like lost her balance, and she wound up hanging like that with her talons from the bottom of the ledge. Dramatic shot for and flapping around and crying, calling out and stuff like that. And she did that for a couple of minutes, and then finally she just let go, and went like a rock into the down below. And she spent 2 or 3 days on the ground in the Korean lilacs there and on the fence and stuff, and then eventually worked her way up to the hood of a car, and then worked her way up to a lower branch, and then tried to get up to the nest, but couldn't. She tried to get up, but she could barely hit the transformer, but she didn't make the transformer, so then she circled around, and eventually she worked her way you know, into the ability to actually lift herself off the ground, you know.
Cool. That must be the best part, though, seeing that development of that first.
Well, yes, and D1 was a male, and he was smaller, obviously, older, and he was like a rocket. He was like an accipiter. He would go through the trees on the ag quad and just barrel through the branches, chasing sparrows and stuff like that. And D3 was another female. She was huge. And she waited until the end and did a nice sledge and stuff like that. You know, actually got into a tree. But she was kind of like, she tag team with D1, you know, and he was like, you know, her big brother and stuff like that. And she tried to learn from him and things like that and stuff like that. And so it was kind of fun to watch, you know, them go after a squirrel together in a gutter, and she'd stand there and like watch him do all the work, you know, like he was trying to do something, and she was, you know, pretty beautiful and stuff like that.